Hi guys, how we doing? I thought I'd make this video just to let you into the process that I've been through to get involved in with the btrda Clubman's Rallycross Championship. I think I'll probably start with just a little bit about me. Just a regular working class sort of guy, family, dogs, do a normal job. I'm a workshop manager in a garage which we're in now, which is where the car's kept. Been around cars my whole life, always wanted to do rallycross, but since I was about 14 I wanted to do rallycross. That's when I first saw it. Based down in Kent in England, so Lynn Hill is our local circuit. Obviously living there, that's where I started, that's where I saw it first, and that's where I sort of got the thing to want to do it really. Been around cars forever, right from my dad and my granddad. Started working on when I was 14, as well as when I first saw rallycross. About the car's been built for the btrda Clubman's Rallycross modified category. It's somewhere between the production category and the super modified, so we're allowed to do a few bits and pieces with that. We'll start with what we're allowed to do to the engine. It is quite restricted, so there's not loads you can do, which again tries to keep the budget friendly. You'll hear budget quite a lot in this, I think, as I think that's one of the big considerations with getting involved in motorsport, is how much you end up actually spending. This class is designed to be a budget friendly class, and I'd say it pretty much is. You know, obviously motorsport is endless. This is the very bottom of rallycross, the top being, well, the new nitro cars, or the old supercars as we call them, where you're looking at 500 grand for a top class car. This is obviously nowhere near that, but we'll get to an overall figure towards the end. So back to the engine. Internally, it pretty much has to be standard. Stock pistons, rods, crankshaft, flywheel, all have to be standard. Solid stock block, obviously. Cylinder head has to be standard. Other than camshafts, you're allowed to run aftermarket camshafts. And to control them, you're allowed to run an aftermarket ECU as well. We haven't actually got either of those things at the moment. We wanted to get the car sort of on track and going, and then we plan to build a fresh engine for next season, as this engine has done quite a few miles now and done some hard driving on track previous to it being a rallycross car. We actually call the car Phoenix because it's been through different iterations. I think it's a good word for it. So she's always being reborn as something new. She's a girl as well. So yeah, engine wise, covered the cams, the ECU. You're allowed to run an aftermarket exhaust manifold and system. Do have to keep a cat though, so we run a sports cat in ours. Air filters are also free, so we run a ITG induction kit. Nothing super fancy, just sort of something to do the job. We do run a map in it as well. If you're around car scenes, you know what I mean by that. It's just a way to upgrade the standard management to run more air, more fuel, get a bit of extra performance in there. Doesn't give us a lot, but probably about, I wouldn't even like to guess, 175, 180 brake tops. Absolute tops are there. Probably more like 170 because it's an old engine. Moving on to the transmission, you have to run a standard casing, standard internals, other than the diff. So the gear set has to be stock ratios for what, in our case, Ford intended, but we are allowed to run a uprated diff. We run a Quaife LSD. In my opinion, it makes a world of difference in these cars. I would recommend getting a diff sorted over more power every single day of the week. If you can get a good diff with good suspension like what we run GAZ gold coilovers, which they've got the poundages specified by GAZ for rallycross, and the valving inside the shocks are also specified for rallycross. They are adjustable, so you can fine tune it to sort of your driving styles. I'll probably say later on in the video, but she was a bit twitchy when we first got out, so we had to do a bit of fine tuning whilst we was at the circuit just to get her a bit happier, and it's made me a bit happier as well, because I had a couple of brown trouser moments where she was a bit too tight. Also on the suspension, you're allowed to run aftermarket suspension bushes, so we run Powerflex Black Series bushes. We are a dealer for that, so if you need anything along those lines, just give us a message and we'll try and do you a deal. As a friend of mine says, we'll always do you a deal. Moving on from that, that's sort of the, I don't know what I'm looking at the car like, it's going to talk back to me or something. Those are the big things you're allowed to do performance-wise. Then you come into your safety aspects. So turbo just gone past. We run a JP cages, 6-point cage. We run 8X seats. I don't know if you can see it. We run 8X seats and harnesses. We run fire extinguisher. You have to run an electrical cut-off. Specifications for those are in the rules. We only have to run a handheld extinguisher in this class. Unlike a lot of other motorsport, you don't have to run a full plumbed-in system. So it's worth bearing in mind. Again, it comes into that budget word. Handheld is a lot cheaper than a full plumbed-in system. Other than that, we run Perspex windows. You can see our number 221. And then wheels and tyres. We run a Team Dynamics wheel and the championship, the whole championship, I think. Maybe not the whole championship, but our class definitely. We have to run a Cooper's tyre as sort of a spec tyre in there. It's not a full slick, it's a cut slick, similar to the old Toyota Proxy Triple Eights, so it's like V-patterned. Again, with that tyre being a regulation tyre, we have to get it from a set supplier as well. That's a lot of sort of covered on the car already. Budget wise, we'll go into a little bit with that. I would say if you wanted to build a Fiesta ST, obviously varies on what cage you use, like the supplier, if you got one made for you. There's loads of like variations. Like the suspension we use is like a reasonably good setup. We got it on a deal price. Just a bit of luck really. When we ordered it, they had an offer on, and they were doing the custom valve and spring rates for nothing. So again, we got a bit cheaper. I would really recommend that though, to be honest. If you got it valved and sprang for rallycross, if you're going to get a set that's just off the shelf, the likelihood is they will be too tight. They'll just be too hard. You need a bit of forgiveness in these cars because it can be quite rough, depending on what circuit you're at and what section. So you need to bear in mind, even though there is a percentage of tarmac, there is a percentage of gravel, and the car needs to be set for that. So yeah, bear that in mind when you're when you've got your shopping list together. I haven't got an exact figure, but I would say upgrading this car from a track day car to race spec has probably cost about the £5,000 mark. I mean, adding to the buying price of the car, depending if what you wanted to get this car was really clean when I started, ignore the damage that's sort of from our first race meeting, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, for the car you're looking at about 1,500 to 2.5 grand, depending. Well, you can go higher than 2.5 even, but I'd say sensible price is 15 to 2.5 to get a good basis. So yeah, you're looking 5.5, 6.5 to £7,500, £8,000 to get the car, build it out, as you want. There is like bits and pieces that were already done that aren't accounted in that £5,000. We already run like not an aftermarket, but a different compound brake pad. We run, the brake lines were already done on it, so I think from the track car build that was pretty much all that stayed, which is a bit grim. But yeah, I'd say, to be realistic, if you've got that £7,500 to £8,000 budget in mind, I think that's a sensible price. On top of the build cost, there was something extra you need to get done, which is a motorsport passport or a car passport. People seem to call them different things, but it's the motorsport version of your V5. Basically, you get a scrutineer to come down, they go through, check some stuff, check your sun guards, what's fitted, check your cage, check your seat, check your belts, check how your seat is mounted into the car, check your fire extinguisher, make sure those sort of things are legal. That paperwork then gets sent off to our motorsport, which is the retitled version of the MSA, the Motorsport Association, so the UK's governing body for motorsport. That process for me has taken about 7 weeks, from Nigel Jones, the scrutineer who did mine, coming down, they come here to work to come and do it, him sending the paperwork off, then the logbook being sent back to me. The cost for that will vary. For me, it was about £250, I think it was. We're based, like I said, I don't know if I said, we're based in the southeast of Kent, right in the bottom corner, about as far away as you can be from anything. The guy who come down to do it was from North London. I had to pay for his travel expenses, and we had to pay a flat rate of £100 for the process anyway. So, and we have to pay for his time as well. So yeah, it worked out about £250 for me. You do have the option, if you want, you can take it to a scrutineer if they'll allow that. I know that was an option for me, but like I said, I manage a workshop, so my time is valuable, and the cost of just getting it to him. So for me, I weighed that up. I thought it's just more cost effective, time effective to get him to come down to us. He was happy to do it, but obviously that comes at a price. And that price was about 250 quid. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the car. If you do have any questions, find us on Instagram, Stitch Motorsport, comment below. I'll answer any questions you have as best as I can. If I don't feel I can answer it, I will ask someone who does know, or I will I'll put you in contact with them. There are loads of people about. They can help, they will help. Next thing, I suppose we'll get on to our first event. Something else totally going past. Our first event was Lynn Hill, which is our local circuit. We had a great day. It was brilliant. As you can see, we had a bit of contact, a bit controversial. I think it was a bit of a 50-50 really. I could have done something different to avoid it. He could have done something to avoid it. I ended up paying a penalty for it because my GoPro had a bit of a malfunction on me and didn't really capture the incident. So yeah, it was 50-50. For me, it's racing. I sustained a bit of damage, he sustained a bit of damage. Rallycross is a contact sport. That's what they say anyway. If you've watched Rallycross for any amount of time, you'll see there is contact. I didn't want it to happen. I'm sure he didn't want it to happen. I'm sorry it happened because, you know, I didn't want to damage his car. I'm sure he didn't want to damage my car. It's unfortunate. Unfortunately, racing is racing. It is what it is, as I say. But yeah, it went really well. I won't go into too many details about each round and everything like that. But yeah, we started slow and a bit unsure in the car because we'd changed so much from when I was last out in it. Like, it was like a completely different car essentially, other than there's 3 pedals in front of you. So yeah, we took a bit of time just to get settled into the car and get settled into that change from tarmac to racing on gravel. We had to make a couple of suspension changes. I had it way too stiff on the back. It made it really twitchy. If you know Liddon at all, you'll know there's a chicane and a bit of gravel as you come down Hairy Hill. You turn right into it, the car was super unsettled through there. And yeah, it nearly fired me off going a straight line at one point, which was interesting. But yeah, as the day went on, we got more comfortable with the car, set a fastest lap time in the 3rd qualifying heat, which we was like super stoked about. We finished 2nd in that heat. After the guy who I had contact with, that you can see the damage for, had contact with another car, had contact with a Type R that's in our class, Alex. So we made the most of that, got into some clean air, was chasing down a Focus ST170, but yeah, he was really quick, really knows his car, been racing a few years. Racing drivers' excuses as to why I didn't do any better, you know it is. Yeah, but we was really happy with that, got that Q2 point. And then in the final, again, we had contact in the final, which is what that damage is and why the bumper's not got the sponsor logos on it anymore. We had 2 pieces, which was, yeah, unfortunate. But we set the fastest time in the final, or I say fastest time, we set the fastest lap time, but come 3rd place. We had to give the position back because of the contacts, which, yeah, I've been through already. But yeah, it was really promising. I was really happy with the day. You know, it was everything that I wanted rallycross to be, other than the contact. You know, we had a crack, we had all the guys down and family, and you know, it was a really good day. Made some new friends. Yeah, it was cool. It was what you'd hope it would be. Got some good advice from around the pits. Yeah, so it was cool. We had a good time. We'll just go into maybe a little bit on budget again. There's a couple of things that you need to consider. So I won't go too much into what it costs getting it to the track, because that's going to vary from where you are to where you're going. There's nothing to do about that. Petrol is really expensive at the moment, but you need to bear that in mind with your budgets. You need to consider how you're getting it there, because obviously you don't want to be driving it. Whether you have a car transport or a trailer, if you've got loads of money and you've got some fancy shindig, you need to get your car to the track. That can vary between a cheap ass trailer like we've got to something called signal dancing, but it does need to be a consideration. The other thing that you need to consider cost-wise is your entry fees. I can't remember off the top, I think it was about £330 was my entry for Liddon. I would look on my phone, but that's what I'm filming off of. Again, it's not as cheap as a track day, but I don't think it's not like going to make you bankrupt. The next round for us to enter is Pembury. That was a little bit, it's less money per race, but it's a long weekend. I can't remember exactly, I think it was about 550 quid it cost me to enter the weekend. Plus the fuel to get there, which for us is going to be a lot because we're in the middle of, well, I say in the middle of nowhere, we're surrounded by the sea and we're about as far away as you can be from absolutely anything. But yeah, it is what it is. I can't really say too much on your circumstances, but that is something to factor in. Another thing to factor in is the cost of your racewear. Again, you can go cheap, you can go expensive. You need gloves, boots, gloves, and you need a helmet, and you need a hands device. That can really vary, but we had all of our gear from racing we'd done previously in sprinting, so we didn't need to get suits, gloves, boots. I did need to get a new helmet and a new hands device as my helmet was out of date. I would say if you've got about the £2,000 mark in your head, that should give you a decent budget to go and get your safety gear with. Like I said though, it can go from cheap to really expensive really quickly. So have a look around, do shop around, you'll find different stuff. The company I've used for a few of my bits was a company called Race and Rallied. They do bargains is the wrong word. They do sort of package deals for a lot of different things, so that's where we got our seat and our belts from. I also got my hands device and my helmet from them. Another company I'd recommend is a company called Grand Prix Racewear. We've used them before and they're good guys, have been in the business a long time. They usually do package deals as well. Have a look on there. Have a look at, my mind's going blank now. It'll come to me in a minute. If you know rallying, you'll know Colin McRae, Nicky Grist. That's it, Nicky Grist Motorsport. They normally do some good deals as well. Have a look there. You might be able to get a bargain. Save yourself some money if you can. Yeah, I think we've been through a lot of stuff. I'd say, really, you're looking at $8 to get into it as a number. Like I said, I'm not super loaded. I don't have a really high paying job. I'm just a typical working class guy. It is doable. You might have to make sacrifices, but it is doable. If you want it, you can do it. Another option, I think, if you're not sure, or I suppose if you're not sure, would be to go to hire a car. I know a company that works a lot inside the btrda is a company called R1 Motorsport. They do hire packages, so if you're on the fence about whether you want to commit that much money, because it is a lot of money still, I think. Well, for me it's a lot of money anyway. If you don't want to commit that money, go and speak to a guy like that. They seem like a real friendly bunch of guys. I put my name to recommend them. Go and speak to them. They might be able to hire you a car. They might be able to put you a car together. Maybe they might even know of a car that's for sale. You know, go and speak to them. They seem like a good bunch of guys. That might be a cheaper route in. You know, you go and hire a car from them, do a couple of events, get a taste for it, then maybe you could get your car built. It's an option. It's definitely an option worth thinking of, I think. So yeah, I think that's everything you could need to know. If there is anything else, do feel free to message us. You'll find us on Instagram. We're there pretty much every day, posting something, whether it's a story of us walking the dogs, or something we're working on in the workshop, or the race cars, or the track cars, or the road cars, something. We normally put something up every day, so yeah. Do feel free to give us a message, give us a follow, like I said, at Stitch Motorsport on Instagram. If not, comment below. We'll do our best to help. Okay. That's all we can say. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope it's been useful, and hope to speak to you soon. Take it easy. Bye.